Hey, everybody. How's it going out there? Glad you're here. First of all, somebody say in the chat that you can hear me, just to make sure you can hear me. I need to know before we get going. Somebody say something. All right. Hey there, Chesley on Facebook. Good to see you. Glad you're here. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube as well. Thanks. I'm glad you can hear me. My favorite day of the week was Wednesday because I would go to lunch at my favorite little Italian place here in Midtown Atlanta and gather with a few, anywhere from 2 to 50 friends, and we would just sit and talk about real estate for a while. And Gordon Katz is on the call today. Gordon, good to see you, man. And he encouraged me, goodness, this has been a year and a half ago now, to start thinking about forming the Flipping America RIA. And so now this is my favorite time. Baranda's not even open for lunch anymore because of the pandemic. So I'd rather skip lunch and sit here on this Zoom call talking to people, not just from Atlanta, but all over the country. I'm so delighted that you're here. It's an honor for me. I'm glad you're here. And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. And I hope that sometime very soon we have local chapters that are going to be meeting in person and signing on for the Zoom call during their lunchtime. All right. So this is it's March the 10th. This is the March 10th meeting of the Flipping America RIA. Glad you're here. Let's get on with the announcements, shall we? Announcement.
When you choose American IRA as your self-directed IRA administrator versus the other guys, you're choosing a path.
That's the commercial coming up in a minute. I got too happy with the buttons over here, but this is the button I'm supposed to hit to proceed to the announcements. Here's the topic for today. Get hard money. Will and Wayne are in the green room. They'll be on in just a minute. And it's time for the pledge. Here we go. You ready? Put your hand on your heart. This is your pledge to yourself. All together. I can't hear you, but I'm trusting that you're saying it. When I look in the mirror, I see the reason, the credit for my successes, the blame for my failures. I cannot make it without my team, and I tell them often, but when they succeed, it's because I chose well and I led well. When they fail, it's because I did not choose or lead well. I am the reason. I may have setbacks, but I cannot fail if I don't ever give up. You got circumstances. I got circumstances. We all got circumstances. But you won't find me under mine. My situation will not dictate my emotion. My circumstances will not control my results. External forces will not take away my power to choose. I cannot change the world, but I can change me and the way I relate to it. So I charge on. I am the reason. Okay, you can sit back down. This is coming up tomorrow night. Paul Williams, he built a successful trucking business, completely unrelated to real estate, sold it, looked around for what to do next. Now he's building a multifamily empire in Texas, by the way. Our guests today are from Texas. And I met him recently, and I wanted to get him on this show and let him tell his story to you. And look, he doesn't have anything to sell. We're just going to talk about going from zero to millionaire in multifamily. That's easy for me to say, multimillionaire in multifamily. And we're going to talk. He'll answer your questions. You'll have a chance to pick his brain. This is coming up next week. Don DeRosa is one of my very good friends right here in Atlanta. He also is one of the most technological savvy guys I know. If there is a product or something that's going to streamline your business and make it easier, he's beta testing it. He's out there. He's on the edge. And we're not just going to talk about the latest technology, which we are, but we're also going to talk about how to evaluate and bring new technologies into your business, because that's an important thing too, to avoid wasting time and getting too enamored with the tech and the tools and the toys. Then next Thursday night, I've got Bob Bloom coming. I've already had a conversation with Bob. Like this guy, I like his approach. It's slightly different than some of the things that we've heard and talked about on the show here. So it's good to hear another voice. Bob is an attorney, and he is going to talk to you about protecting your assets. And look, here's the thing. If you listen to what we're saying here on the Flipping America show and in these meetings, if you will just go out and do some of these things, if you'll take advantage of the gentleman that you're going to hear today, don't take advantage of the men, but take advantage of the opportunity that they're offering you to get money for your deals, you're going to end up having some stuff. And just as sure as the sun comes up in the east and goes down in the west, somebody else is going to try to figure out how to get your stuff from you. You need to protect yourself. And that's what we'll be talking about next Thursday night. Here's a little magical thing. If you have one of these devices at home or one of the more up-to-date ones, say, Alexa, play the podcast Flipping America, and magic will happen. It will just automatically play the last show we produced, which, let's see, this is Wednesday. Tomorrow will be Thursday. So Monday's show was show number 400, I think 459, maybe 458. I lose track because we record them all in one day. All right, screenshot time. We've got resources for you here that we've put together, some links that we recommend if you want to find deals. And I've got a giveaway related to finding deals, by the way. That first thing is a link that takes you to an Amazon page, Deals and Where to Find Them, where, let's see if I can get this in front of the camera, you can buy this book. And we're going to give away a couple copies of this book on the call. Just hang on. Driving for Dollars, Get Funding. Look, there's Bay Mountain Capital. Woohoo! Right there. Gap and unsecured funding. And one more screenshot for you. If you want to analyze deals, use Flipping America Comps to get a 7-day free trial. Self-directed IRA, you're going to hear from them in just a minute because I will hit the button again. And then insurance, there's a link with the National Insurance Company for real estate investment properties all over the country. And if you want to get deals from the MLS, get Privy Program. I'm going to have Benson from Privy back on here in another month or so. And because every time I have him on, I get excited again about this program and I find a deal or two. We make offers every time because he works with live data from the MLS. All right. So I'm going to zoom through this because I want to get right into our guests, but this is a little bit about Flipping America. It is a free app. If you don't have the app already, I encourage you to download it. This is the Flipping America is now also this meeting, the local networking with the national impact, and it is the Flipping America Academy. We're adding courses just about weekly, and the newest course that's going to be out in the next week or so is this one, REI by the Numbers. It's coming soon, and it's going to sell for $297. We saw the preview lesson for it last Thursday night. If it's still up on the YouTube channel from the live stream, if you want to go catch that, there's a lot to the numbers in real estate, and that's all I'm going to say. We're going to run out of time. So at the same time, I'm going to give one of these away today. So in the chat, I want everybody to go in there and say hello. I'll remind you of that in a minute. And pick a number between 1 and 100. Chip's already picked out a number. And so the winner is going to win this $300 course. And we got 2 runners-ups that are going to win a copy, an autographed edition of my book, Fantastic Deals and Where to Find Them. All right. We have a buyer's club. You can check that out. There's a YouTube video on that. The fan trading platform is coming. It is coming. It really is coming. We're just working out the last glitches. I know that we can't, mingle around the room like you do at a real networking event, but use the chat function here to virtually mingle. Say hello to everybody. Tell us what you're up to. Tell us what you're looking for. If you have a deal to sell, tell us. Make sure we know about it. If there's something we can do to help you grow your business, then please put it in there. If you want a free 30-minute strategy call with me, there are limited slots available every week, but if you go to rogerblankenship.com or flippingamerica.net, you can schedule a free strategy call. All right, time for the topic of the day. Now, first, a word from this sponsor.
When you choose American IRA as your self-directed IRA administrator versus the other guys, you're choosing a path that will save you money without sacrificing expertise or performance. Because unlike the other guys, we do not work on a sliding scale of fees. We offer one low-set annual administration fee. Let's take a closer look. As your assets grow with American IRA, your annual fee remains the same. The other guys base their fees on the number of assets you own or the value of your account. So over the life of your self-directed IRA, your annual fees will continue to increase year after year. What does this mean for you? When you work with us, you'll have more money to put towards the important things in your life, like retirement. We know that there are already enough places your money has to go, from your state and local government to the IRS. Don't let your self-directed IRA administrator take more from you than they should. So with American IRA, no matter how your assets grow over the life of your investment, you'll pay one low set annual fee, putting you in total control of your financial future. Choosing American IRA means you're choosing expertise, value, and performance.
All right, look here. We've got Will and Wayne. And, I set this up so that our names would appear here, but I am not seeing them. I don't know. All right, this is Will in the middle and Wayne on the right, everybody. So, how you doing, guys?
Doing well, Roger. How you doing?
I'm okay. Little technical embarrassment here because that button is switched over there. Your names are supposed to be showing up here, and I don't know why it's not working, but I'm not going to try to fix it on the fly. I'm likely to mess something else up. All right. So, are you recovered from the big deep freeze out there in Texas?
Slowly but surely, we're coming around. Texas isn't used to all that winter up north.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So, is the power back on everywhere?
It is. I think they got the grid back up and running, and now they're trying to figure out what went wrong and who's to blame for it.
Yeah. Well, I just read in the paper that somebody got fired, right? Somebody in charge of something.
Yeah, it's Texas is a unique state when it comes to the power grid because Texas has its own separate power grid from the rest of the United States, and it dates back to, I think, in the 80s that they wanted to remain separate, something to do with Washington and politics. And so we're actually only on our own separate grid, which is fine and dandy most of the time. But the problem is that once every 10 years, we have these major ice storms that happen and the grid's not winterized for it. And so we can't pull power from the rest of the country. And if some of the plants get shut down, well, it causes a major issue around here.
Okay. Well, I'm glad things are back to normal and glad you guys are safe and sound and warm and all of that. So let's talk about hard money. Well, we may have some people on the call here who are brand new to real estate investing. So let's assume that we do. And let's give it a definition. Either one of you, tell us, what is hard money?
Hard money is a loan that is backed by a true hard asset is the best way to put it.
Yeah. All right.
When you're looking for a hard money loan, a hard money lender really is more concerned about the value of the asset, in this case, real estate, then they're more concerned about the sponsor's ability to repay the loan, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
When you go to a bank is in the interest rate business. They borrow from the Fed at a certain rate and they lend out at a certain rate. And the delta in between is how they make their money. They don't really know real estate. They don't get it. They don't understand it. And to be frank, most of them would rather not lend on it, even though it's, especially community banks, it's 90% of the lending that they do. And they're more concerned on you as a person, a sponsor. Can you pay that loan back? Do you have good credit? Do you have good financials? Do you have strength? Do you have a good paying job to where you can make the monthly payment? Hard money, of course, we do care who the sponsor is and their ability to pay it back, but we always look at the worst case scenario. If I have to take back the property, am I at a position to where I can get out and be whole without losing any money?
All right. So what that means is you're not going to loan, 97 or 100% of the purchase price.
No, but we will.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And
Because
the reason why that is that, we lend at, and again, there's certain variables that have to take, but we will do up to 100% of the purchase price and the rehab, which is total cost, or generally 70% of the after repair value, the ARV. And so the reason why we are able to do that is because, when I take a property back, we do an analysis of what's the best way to get out of the property. Is it A, do we sell it as is, Or B, do we go in, do we complete the rehab? Because at the end of the day, we're real estate guys just like everybody else, and girls, excuse me. And, we have the ability to go in and complete a rehab to try to get it out at that ARV.
Right. And really, that's kind of where I was going with that, because you're able to make these loans and not as worried about their ability to repay, because you do have an exit strategy in case they can't. And I guess the other thing too is these are short-term loans, and the plan is for people to make the property more valuable when they buy it, right?
100% correct.
Okay. So because they're adding value to the property, then you can loan, 100% of the purchase price and all the rehab. All right. So, what makes you different from a bank? What are some of the things that makes you different than like just a bank down the street?
No, absolutely. Well, one of them is the fact is that we will allow for more leverage. As you're talking about, if you wanted to go flip a home and you went down to your local bank, they're going to take a look at the home, and let's say the home, as it stands today, is worth $100,000. But if you put $50,000 into a rehab into that home, it will be worth $200,000. The difference is the bank's going to look at that house and say, okay, so it's worth $100,000 today. We're going to give you 65% of the current value, so we're going to give you a loan for $65,000, which means you have to come out of pocket the other $35,000 plus the $50,000, so $85,000 to try and sell it for $200,000. We will look at it and say, you know what? We do believe that that's going to be worth $200,000 after you put $50,000 into it. So we're going to look at 100% of your total cost, which is $100,000 plus $50,000 for $150,000, and 70% of the after repair value, that $200,000. 70% of $200,000 is $140,000. So I'm going to give you a loan for $140,000 versus $65,000 that the bank's going to give you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lend you $140,000. I'm going to hold back that $50,000, which is your rehab budget. And so at purchase, I'm going to advance $90,000, which means you only have to come out of pocket $10,000, not $35,000 and then eventually $85,000 with the rehab budget. So you come out of pocket $10,000, and as the rehab goes along, I advance the rehab funds in draws as you request them, to where once you finish the project, I have $140,000 into the project. You only have $10,000 into the project, but you're going to make $50,000 on the project. Now, let me ask you a question. Let's say you're making $50,000 on the project, and with the bank, you have $85,000 into the project. That's a pretty good return on your money. Now, but what if you still made that $50,000, but you only had $10,000? So you're making 500% return on your money. I think it's a little bit better than having $85,000 into the project.
Right. Well, if we're going to be precise, you got a little bit of interest expense there. So maybe you only make $45,000 on your $10,000, but still, the point is well taken. Your return on your cash is much higher when you leverage it this way. All right, now I don't know any banks, well, other than the what is it, a 203B loan. I don't know any programs that banks have that are even like what you do.
Right? That is also correct. Again, they don't like the risk. Banks are not in the real estate business, and they typically don't like to lend on real estate unless it's income producing, which means it already has a cash flow stream coming off of it from rents, whether it's a commercial property for like an office building where the tenants are paying rents, or multifamily with apartments paying rents.
And they're reluctant.
That way they know that they underwrite it to where the rents coming off the property can carry the debt load.
Yeah.
So what's your monthly payment to the bank? Can the income coming off the property take care of that monthly payment each month?
They won't even count that income if you've been doing this for less than 2 years. So banks are a little tougher to deal with. Maybe you
There.
can get some great rates there, but let's just say they're a little tougher to deal with, and they're not going to loan on some of the things that you will loan on. Now you have a lot of freedom because you're not regulated like the mortgage companies, right?
That is also very true. You know, the reason why banks have such great low rates is because they borrow money from the federal government. But the reason why they're regulated so much is because a bank takes in deposits from the average individual, and the government wants to make sure that the banks are taking care of those deposits. You know, you and me walking down and opening up a savings account with our hard-earned money, and the government's there to protect us, and that the bank isn't being reckless with that savings, which they then turn around and lend out. A hard money lender like ourselves, we lend out of what's called a mortgage pool. And what we have done over the last 10 years is that we have raised money from what they call accredited investors. And there is a definition that is defined by the government of who can be an accredited investor. And it's, I think you have to make at least $250,000 a year, or you have to have a net worth of over $1 million and some other things. But the government's thought is, if you make that kind of money, or you're worth that kind of money, buyer beware. You know, if you're going to make an investment, you should do your own homework, and it's not up to the government to regulate that type of investment.
They assume a level of sophistication.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have raised money from accredited investors, and because it's from accredited investors and not the average, person on the street, we don't get regulated like banks do. Thus, we can go out and be more risky by offering a higher leverage and more money on a project, but at the same time, we're also going to charge more for it.
Okay. All right. Now, you've kind of intimated a little bit about a couple of things that Bay Mountain does that I particularly like to protect the borrowers. You're protecting your own interests, I know, but talk to all of us a little bit about the feasibility studies.
Wayne, you want to take that one?
Sure.
Yeah, well, my next question was going to be, hey, Wayne, what do you do at this company besides look handsome and ride motorcycles?
Well, I drive cars. No, I'm in charge of our single family side, and we do a feasibility study because, as you mentioned, we are in the same position really as the borrower. So we have as much interest as the borrower does in making sure all the numbers in this deal are correct. The brokers don't, the real estate agents don't. Everyone else goes away once the deal closes except for us and the borrower. So we want to make sure that the borrower is making decisions on correct numbers. So what we do at our own expense on these deals is we send out a third-party inspector to review the rehab budget to make sure that it is sufficient in scope and in price. And what we're trying to do is make sure, one, borrowers aren't taken advantage of by general contractors who are less than scrupulous. Sometimes they will underbid a deal to get it and then raise the price as the deal goes on. And in those cases, sometimes it doesn't make sense to do the deal in the first place. Or sometimes honest GCs just miss stuff. It's just good to have a second set of eyes on that. So that's part of our underwriting, is just to review the rehab budget and make sure that the investor is making a business decision based on accurate numbers.
Now, is this review done at the site, or are you doing like a desktop review just based on
It's
costs?
done at the site. It's generally done at the same time the appraisal is done.
Okay. So you have an appraiser that's doing an ARV appraisal and conducting this review at the same time, or is it a different person?
No, we have an actual inspector. So we have two people going out. We have an inspector that's reviewing the rehab budget, and then we have an appraiser who generally don't look at the rehab budget and decide whether it's sufficient. They just go, okay, if this work was done to the property, what would it be worth? So we actually put two sets of eyes on the deal. Again, just to make sure that we really want to make sure our borrowers are making their business decisions based on accurate numbers.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So now, but you are doing an ARV appraisal at the same time, right?
Yes.
All right. I guess when you go to a bank and you say, let's talk about ARV, they go, what?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, what happens when a deal what happens if you've got a rehab budget from an investor and it's off by a factor of say 15% or so. What happens next?
Well, we'll point out the deficiencies to our to the borrower, and depending on the borrower's experience, we and what exactly is the parts that are missing, we either would require those changes to be made, or we might just point it out to the borrower. So really, it's just to let them know, look, this thing might cost a little bit more than you think. Let's consider these costs and decide whether or not this deal still makes sense, because it's all about cost versus value. And once you start raising costs, sometimes the deal doesn't make sense.
Okay. Now, some people, I've heard this many times, people say, oh, yeah, but hard money, man, the rates are so high. And all this money is going to go out the door and it's going to take away all your profit with the interest. How do you respond to that? Either one of you.
Well, it shouldn't, because these are short-term loans. And when borrowers are analyzing their deals, they should factor in the cost of money in the deal. But 6 months, and you always have to do the analysis, is 6 months of money at a hard money rate worth the liquidity, worth your ability to do another deal possibly?
Right.
So that's where it comes in.
Right. One of the lessons in the numbers course that I've just talked about is a lesson that shows the power of leverage and what you're able to do if you're properly leveraged. But I think, just as a duty to our listeners and our friends that are on the call, I just want to say to everyone, when you are using hard money, remember that the money costs you every day. And so every day that no one is working on the job site is a day that just costs you money for nothing. And the only people that should get money for nothing are rock groups, like Dire Straits.
Well, Roger, I go back to the example I laid out before. If you go to a traditional bank, it's going to cost you $85,000, and if you're making $50,000, that's a 60% return on your money. That's great, but that's still $85,000 out of your pocket. If you were to use hard money and you're only spending $10,000 out of your own pocket, but you might pay an extra $5,000 in financing costs, that's a 450% return on your money.
Right.
Would you rather have a 450% return on your money using hard money, or a 60% return on your money with more at risk? Because at the end of the day, if things go south, chances are I'm going after the property and I don't want anything to do with you. And so you get to walk away.
Right.
And you also have the liquidity to pursue another deal possibly.
Yes. Yes. In my numbers course, I set up a scenario where you've got $200,000 in cash to invest, and you can do one $200,000 deal if you use your cash, or you can do 5 $200,000 deals if you use leverage. And
exactly,
I did with the return on cash kind of formula that you're talking about there. The difference is staggering. But I was in the middle of giving a caution though, and the caution is, if you've got a big complicated rehab where there are a lot of things that can go wrong and it's going to take a year to do, be very careful about using private money, because if there's so many unknowns in there, you may run into a situation where the loan's nearing its end and you're not, or maybe your money is nearing an end and the deal isn't done. But this is where I really appreciate you guys at Bay Mountain Capital, because your feasibility study is going to help catch and trap some of these errors and mitigate the risks, right?
Of course.
Okay.
That's
now,
the purpose of it.
I've put your website up there. What does somebody need to do if they are interested in talking with you? Just go to this website, baymountaincapital.com.
Yes, so that's how it all gets started. And we actually do have boots on the ground in a lot of different places. As you mentioned, Chip runs our southeastern originations. He's in charge of all Atlanta, Tennessee, soon to be Alabama and Florida. And then Wayne is in charge of North Texas and Oklahoma. And we also have Eric, who sits in San Antonio and is all over South Texas. And the reason why we have these specific people in these regions is they're there to help. They're there to help our borrowers, our potential borrowers. They love to reach out, talk to you about your program, talk to you about your deal, and make sure that they can, walk you through the process of getting a hard money loan from Bay Mountain Capital. They are great resources, and they are very beneficial to not only us, but also to the borrower. And it's very simple. If you want to start on our webpage, you can go to our webpage and you can browse through the team, figure out who you need to contact, pick up the phone and call them. All the numbers are right there. And we also do an easy online application in order to apply for a loan. And again, Chip, Eric, or Wayne and myself can help walk you guys through it.
Okay. Yeah. Pretty easy process, pretty straightforward. And the thing that I like also is that you fund. We've got Chip and Eric have been coming on the last few weeks, sharing some of the success stories from your borrowers. And it's pretty cool to see. And I know that one just closed yesterday here in the Atlanta area that we're hoping to feature. And I probably shouldn't say anything more about it, but we're hoping to feature it in an ongoing series we're planning for Flipping America. I probably need to talk to Chip before I say anything else, because he was going to ask that borrower if they'd be willing to let us talk to him while the cameras are rolling. All right. Let's take questions. If you have questions for Will and Wayne, you want to ask them something, put it in the Q&A tab. I'll see it right now. Or if you're watching from Facebook or YouTube, you could put your questions in the comments and I'll see that and we'll deal with it. I'll give you a couple of minutes. Guys, gather your thoughts. I'm going to ask you to give a final word of encouragement in just a moment. And I want to tell all of you that we are here every Wednesday at 12:30 and every Thursday at 7:30. And we're talking with interesting people and great ideas every week. And I did have a property pairings for you today, but I had some technical problems. My fault. You know, lots of buttons to push, and I'm good with properties, not so good with all the buttons sometimes. But anyway, we'll have another property pairings video for you probably maybe tomorrow, but next week. And if you want me to pair your property with the perfect whiskey and cigar, just send the story of your property to propertypairings@flippingamerica.net, and I will put some thought into it, and you'll be amazed at how accurate my pairings are. And if you wonder, well, how do we know you've got it right? Trust me, I'm the Flipping America guy. All right, Jay says, can you have multiple hard money loans at the same time with Bay Mountain?
Yes, you can. Typically, especially with a newer borrower, newer client of ours, we try to limit it to 3 at any given time before we would like to see one pay off. But once a borrower is proven to us, we've gone up as many as, what, Wayne, did you say 4 or 5?
Yeah, probably up to 5.
Okay. All right. Hope that helps you, Jay. That's the only question that's popped up in the Q&A. I'm also looking over on Facebook and YouTube. Not seeing anything there. All right. You guys have done a good job of explaining. It's a pretty straightforward process. You make loans on flips, but you also do some lending on a short-term basis for buy and holds. You want to talk about that for a minute?
Absolutely. So we have a multiple platforms. Obviously, the one that we talked about already was the single family fix and flip loan, which is generally a 6 to 12 month loan. We also have a rental product, which is a 3 to 5 year product that is up to 75% of the current value at anywhere from 7 to 8%. And the nice thing about our product, unlike a lot of other products, is that we don't require them to be seasoned. And what I mean by that, we don't require them to be rented out, which is great for a really hot topic right now, which is Airbnb. So it's a great loan for an Airbnb product. And that's another great product we came out with beginning of this year, and it's really taken off, and we've done a lot of great business with it and had a lot of great success. And then the last platform, obviously, is we do a lot of commercial as well. And that's everything from land to multifamily, office, and in between.
That's what I was going to ask you next. So if I've got some apartments I want to buy, I can come see you about the loan.
Absolutely.
Now, what's your basis for loaning on land? I mean, not basis, but, the exit strategy or whatever. What's the product?
Land's tricky, and a lot of people won't lend on land. If we like the land, we'll lend up to 60% loan to value. And it just depends, but we can get comfortable at that kind of range, knowing that we've got enough equity cushion on top of us that if, let's say, we were to hit a downturn in the recession, and land's always the hardest to get rid of, then we've at least got about 40% of equity that would have to really be eaten through before we start losing our principal in our basis in the land.
Okay. I just got a text from Chip asking me to review the chat to see if anybody inadvertently sent their guests to panelists. Yeah. Hey, Suzanne and Tiffany, would you put your number, please, to panelists and all attendees so that way Chip will see it? We're going to have contest winners here in a minute. And everybody else, look at what you said. Yeah, Tim, send yours out there. And Dinesh and Purple Lotus. I love that. Yeah, a lot of you sent Tiffany. Nina, you're okay. I'm going through, and that's all that I see that went to panelists. But everybody look at your own guess. Make sure it went to panelists and attendees. I probably should have stressed that, because if you only send it to panelists, then I haven't been really watching, and Chip can't see it. I guess I could promote him to panelist so he could see it. But anyway, yeah, I think I'll do that, Chip. Promote you to a panelist right now. That way you can see him. All right. So, final word, gentlemen. Wayne?
Well, I would just like to say that we love working with both beginners and with seasoned investors. I think with beginners, we can really help guide them through the process. And with seasoned investors, we can, help speed them along and add leverage to their deals.
Will?
I just want to reiterate, we've been doing this a long time. Bay Mountain Capital's been around since 2006, really. We've done over 2,000 loans, actually over 2,200 loans. So we know what we're doing. And we know how to lend, and we know how to help the beginner, and we also know how to craft, individual programs for the experience to really help them maximize their return. And come to us, use us. We're hard money lenders, but we're not in the loan-to-own business. And the best way we make money is by you making money and we getting through a project and coming back for another loan.
Right. All right. And I just want to say to everyone, I've had several experiences with hard money lenders, but these guys are who they look like they are, who they say they are. Solid company, great people, great products, and great service. You'll be glad that you're dealing with Bay Mountain Capital. And this is not a paid endorsement. I'm just happy to promote you guys. So thank you. Thank you for taking time to join us. All right.
Appreciate it, Roger.
So we'll get you back on the show, sometime in a few months next time we need to talk about hard money. But thanks for joining us. And everybody hang on. I've got a few parting words for you. All right. We've got some contest winners we need to deal with here. Chip. Do I have you talking? Let me see. Chip, is your mic on? Oh, okay. Yep. I hear it coming out of my headphones over there. Hold on. Man, I tell you what. All right, now talk to me, Chip. All right, I can hear you now. Everybody else could hear you too before, but I don't know that Wayne and Will can hear you, but I can. All right, so tell us what we've got in terms of winners here. Yes, one grand prize winner of the REI by the Numbers course. Woohoo. All right, Miller Ogello. All right. Yeah. All right, I'm just making some notes here. All right, so Chesley and Julie are won the books, and what I'll do is we'll offline we'll email with you, get your mailing address, and I will put my autograph in this book and congratulate you, and we'll send it off in the mail to you. All right. If you want your own copy of this, there's the link that was there, but you can just go to Amazon and look it up. Basically, the subtitle of this book is How I Get 10,000 Deals a Week in My Inbox. And I still do get 10,000 deals a week in my inbox. It took me, I didn't go from 0 to 10,000 in 2 months. It took me a few years of constantly working these methods, but I get more deals to look at every week than I can possibly look at. And I can cherry pick the best of the best. And because of remote flipping, I'm willing and able to go a few hours away to flip a house. And I have enough deal flow going on to pay the bills. So it maybe a little bit more. All right. So that's good. And any other word, anything else for the good of the order? Chip? All right. What I want to say to everybody is just get out there and do it. Make offers before you're ready. Make a lot of offers. Make offers where you're unsure. Leave yourself a little bit of due diligence time so you can cancel it if you've made an enormous mistake. But just make offers. Get off the sidelines. Don't sit there. The weather is turning. It's nice. It's the perfect time of year to start buying flip properties. If you intend to flip, get out there and get something now. If you get something accepted and you're nervous about it, schedule a strategy call with me. I'll give you 30 minutes of time just to sit and visit with you and help you make sure that you're on the right track. You can also apply for a loan with Bay Mountain Capital, and they're going to do the same thing. They're going to do it in more depth than I am. They're going to do a feasibility study to make sure that your deal looks like a deal. Together, we're going to help you get profitable, but you must take those steps. Okay? We'll see you tomorrow night at 7:30, everybody. Thanks for joining us.